Jay Jaffe with us from his home and joins us for our weekly chat. Jay, first off, it's great to have you back. And, there's afternoon games going on in baseball, kind of something we've seen here for the 2021 season. And what a start to the year Byron Buxton is having right now with the Minnesota Twins. 5 hits so far today in their game against the Indians. And, you look at Buxton's start, and it's almost like everybody that's ever fantasized about what he could do when healthy, it's all finally coming to fruition here this season for him.
Yeah, we've seen flashes of absolute brilliance out of Buxton on both sides of the ball. I mean, he is just one of the most spectacular defenders in center field. He's got incredible power. He's probably the fastest regular player in the majors as well. But staying healthy has been a problem. And, he's got a very all-out style that unfortunately leads to a lot of injuries. He's had concussion problems. He's had shoulder problems, broken toe, all kinds of stuff. I already wrote about him once earlier this year. He homered off of Corbin Burns, the only run that Burns allowed over his first 4 starts. But part of a very hot start himself. And, coming off just an absolutely bizarre season last year in which he posted a 267 on base percentage and a 577 slugging percentage. I was like, how did he get that? How did he get to that weird line? But he's been hitting this year, and it's been great to watch. And he's just one of those players. I mean, he's no longer a young. I don't think you can really classify him as young. He's young by my standards. I'm 51. He's 27, so of course he's young. But he's not Ronald Acuna Jr. anymore. Or Fernando Tatis young. But it's nice to see him put it together. It certainly means a lot for the Twins. Who have their hands full suddenly in that AL Central. They're off to a 7-15 start and got all kinds of other things going wrong. But he's right, and like you said, those 5 hits today, just a good time to watch him.
I'm happy you mentioned the fact that really he's the lone bright spot right now, because other than a couple of J.A. Happ starts, it's been rough for the Twins. It really has. And so far, the story of the season in the AL Central has been the Kansas City Royals and guys like Danny Duffy, who are resurrecting their careers this season and giving KC that great start that's put them first right now in the Central.
Yeah, the Royals had a pretty good offseason. They were much more aggressive than most teams. They added Carlos Santana via free agency, and Mike Minor, I think it was, Mike Minor, and Wade Davis, brought back Wade Davis from their glory days in the World Series years. But Duffy. It feels like they've been waiting forever for Duffy to put it together, and he's shown some strong signs here and there, but he's never really evolved into that true number one starter that I think they hope for. And right now he's carrying an 0.39 ERA. And off to a fantastic start through his first 4 turns. I think the Royals are definitely going to be a factor in that division. We thought that at Fangraphs, we thought that there was a reasonable chance they would at least overtake the Indians, and they've more than done that. They've outdone the White Sox so far. This could be an interesting race.
I'm with you on that one. Speaking of interesting races, you wrote about the Braves a few days ago and their bizarre doubleheader against Arizona and what Zach Gallen and Madison Bumgarner did to them. I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about how the New York Mets at 9-9 are currently in first place in the NL East. It's strange to see just how these teams on paper all seem so good, and they still could have a great season, but right now it is by far the most subpar division in all of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets have had all kinds of problems in terms of, they got a late start to the season with the COVID-related delays of their opening series with the Nationals. They've had some injury problems. Their defense is just horrendous. They're not playing particularly well, other than even when Jake DeGrom takes the field or takes the mound. So. The opportunity for other teams in that division to gain ground on them has been there, but it hasn't happened. The Braves rotation has been really shaky. Their offense outside of Acuna and maybe a couple other hitters has been pretty shaky. The Nationals have had pitching and offensive problems, and the Marlins are just the Marlins. They're they're a little bit better than before. The Phillies, continue to be less than the sum of their parts. It's a bizarre division right now. I expect that the Mets and the Braves will be the two teams there at the end, and I think quite possibly both playoff teams. But you look out west where the Giants are sharing first place with the Dodgers, and suddenly what we assume to be maybe a 6 or 7 team race for the 5 spots is expanding a little bit.
I'm happy you mentioned the Giants. That's probably the best story so far this season. Nobody gave the Giants any credit to try to get there, and here they are right now tied with the Dodgers. Meanwhile, the Padres brought their A game for LA, and those games were phenomenal. But if you're a Padres fan, you don't want to just see the Padres live up to their hype against the Dodgers. You want to see them do it against everybody else, and they lost last night. And I think Padre fans are just waiting for more consistency from this team when their opponents are not wearing an LA on their caps.
Yeah, those 7 games that the two teams have played have just been fantastic. It's been good to see Fernando Tatis Jr. start to swing the bat better. He was just devastating against the Dodgers this past weekend. But they've had some issues in their rotation. Chris Paddock has not pitched very well. They have lost Dinelson Lamet to injuries, and there's some concern he might need Tommy John surgery. He had a UCL sprain that kept him out of the playoffs last year, and they kind of brought him along slowly. He left 2 innings after his lone start, something I wrote about last week. Ryan Weathers pitched very well, has pitched very well twice against the Dodgers so far, and has been a real bright spot. But they're like you said, they're still looking for some consistency here, and they're going to have to beat the other teams besides the Dodgers.
Absolutely right. Now, I want to get some other thoughts. Number one, will the Cards be able to keep pace in the NL Central with Molina going on the IL? He has always been one of their leaders, not just behind the plate, but offensively. Without Yachty, how tough is it going to be right now for the Cards?
Yeah, the Cardinals have not done a very good job of cultivating a good back up / successor to Molina. I really don't know how well they can withstand this. If it's a short-term thing, yeah, I think they'll be fine. But if this is a long-term thing, and we are talking about a 38-year-old catcher who's really reaching the finish line here of a fine career, it could be an issue because the Brewers have started very well and look to be the stronger team on paper. So you just can't you can't let them get too far ahead.
No doubt. Minor trade made earlier this week. Talkman going from the Yanks over to the Giants. I know that he wasn't getting a lot of at-bats, and I still wonder what's going to happen with Clint Frazier with his ridiculously slow start to the season right now. Thoughts on the Giants, though, ultimately getting Talkman on the cheap?
Yeah, I really like the move for the Giants. I'm kind of puzzled by the move for the Yankees. The Giants have hit on a lot of discarded players over the past few years under Farhan Zaidi, the former Dodgers general manager, who's now the president of baseball operations in San Francisco. Guys like Mike Yastrzemski and Donovan Solano, Kevin Gausman, now Aaron Sanchez. Maybe Talkman's one of those guys. He was one of those guys for the Yankees a couple years ago. They pried him loose of the Rockies, and he had a great 2019 season in limited duty. But he was hurt and pretty lousy last year. And this year he lost playing time to Jay Bruce and to Brett Gardner. And I'm kind of mystified from the Yankees standpoint why they didn't give him more reps. This is a guy who can fill in center field like Gardner can. He doesn't have the veteran resume that Gardner has, but Gardner is off to a very slow start and looking pretty done. He's been there before. He shakes out of it usually, but they brought him back to be a 4th outfielder, and he's taking at bats away from Frazier and from Talkman. I don't really see the point of that if he's not hitting either. the Yankees are just searching everywhere for answers. I'm actually writing about their catching situation because it seems like they're finally ready to admit that Gary Sanchez is not the everyday catcher of the future, and that Kyle Higashioka, their backup, is his time has come. So interesting moves on both coasts. But yeah, for the Giants, yeah, I think that Tauchman could develop into somebody who makes the Yankees look bad for letting him go.
Jay Jaffe with us right now from Fangraphs.com. You can follow him on Twitter at J_Jaffe. You wrote a really interesting piece today on Fangraphs about the Pioneer League and some of the experimental rules that they will have in place this year. And it's important to note that this is not something that they did with the MLB. This is something that they're doing themselves. But Jay, of all the rules, I think the one rule change that really caught my attention was the fact that they're going to be settling extra inning games with a home run derby-like contest as opposed to putting a runner on second base.
Yeah, it's one of those thoughts that you see a lot at 11 o'clock or later on Twitter. Why don't they just settle this dumb extra innings game with a home run derby instead? Well, there's a league that is willing that into existence. The Pioneer League is a league that's near and dear to me because it's based in the Rocky Mountains. There's long been a team in Ogden, which is about an hour up the road from where I grew up. There for a while, there was a team in Salt Lake City that was co-owned by Bill Murray that I saw set the professional baseball winning streak record back in 1987. They were one of the leagues that was that lost its affiliated status with the big contraction this past winter. But they agreed to become what's called a partner league, which means they're funded by Major League Baseball in terms of their operating expenses, but they're not. They don't get the players from Major League Baseball. They have to find them themselves. While other indie leagues, the Atlantic League is implementing some rules in conjunction with Major League Baseball. The Pioneer League came up with this rule and a couple others involving the designated pinch runner, designated pinch hitter, and revised check swing rule on their own, just as a means of increasing fan engagement. And I'm fine with trying it out at the indie league level. I think that nobody at an indie league game is going to stay past 9 innings anyway. You're taking your kids, your family to the game. It's not going to be a late night. You got to wrap this thing up in quick fashion. So I don't begrudge them, but I do not want to see Rob Manfred get any bright ideas out of this because we've already seen the outrages he's generated with some of the innovations that have come in, and some of them are pandemic related, but there's fear that that the runner on second rule, which was a novelty last year and was understandable under the circumstances, has really worn thin already this year as we've gotten a higher rate of extra inning games.
Here's what I don't understand. I can't figure out how Major League Baseball continues to get the instant replay rule wrong. It seems like every time they review a close play and it looks to us that it's an obvious call, baseball will not change it, or they will not look at the replay and let them influence a close play at the plate. And that's the one thing that's kind of confusing to us, Jay, is you've got the rule in place. Sometimes it seems like it's such an obvious thing. They'll spend minutes reviewing it, and sometimes they won't overturn a call that to us seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, there, one really notable instance of that was that Michael Conforto walk-off hit by pitch a few weeks ago. The umpires are allowed to confirm whether the pitch actually hit a player in review, but even if it's like extremely obvious that a guy leaned into a pitch and did not get out of the way, which the call in the field that he is automatically out could be invoked. They're not allowed to make that adjustment during a replay review, and so that seems kind of asinine. Other complaints about replays involving, that fraction of a second a player comes off the bag if he overslides it or if he's readjusting after sliding into the base. Those are two things. There's a few others like check swing calls and things like that. There's just blind spots, and it's for all the criticism that MLB and the umpires have received for not being able to change those rules. You'd think they'd get around to saying, hey, why don't we close up this loophole? For some things, replay works as intended, and I think on the whole, I'm still happier that it's there than not. But some of the ticky-tacky stuff and some of the blind spots are frustrating.
I'm here. I'm with you on that one. By the way, what rule in baseball drives you the most crazy? Is there one thing in particular that you just can't stand at this point?
Oh, I mean, I guess I would say that I mean, I think I'll go with that fraction of a second off the bag thing, where it's kind of a spirit of the rule versus the letter of the rule. I think there should be some more leeway granted in those cases. But the ball, some of the balls and strikes stuff, kind of bothers me too. The fact that we can't do better with with instant replay with that.
Jay, let's wrap it up. Beer pick of the week. What do you have for our listeners this week?
Well, I got a box from you. From a Texas brewery, but I have to confess I haven't gotten very far in it. So I'll give a fuller review next week. We're well stocked with craft beer right now. I went to Trader Joe's for the first time in over a year. We have one just 3 blocks away, and I got they stock Single Cut, which is a Queens brewery that you and your listeners know is one of my favorites. And they have a session IPA called 18 Watt, which is just really just a fantastic session beer. When you get it fresh, it'll take you half the beer before you realize, hey, this is just a session beer. This isn't this isn't one of those 8% boozy bombs, and it just tastes so fresh. I don't know. I wish it were more easily available in other places, because I don't like to go to Trader Joe's all that much. But it's a really fantastic beer. It used to be called Billy 18 Watt. Now it's just 18 Watt. They've changed the name.
You got to understand something. We've been waiting for a Trader Joe's in El Paso forever. We still don't have one. The closest we get to go is Albuquerque or Tucson. So
Jesus.
The fact that exactly. The fact that you're 3 blocks away is going to make a lot of people listening to this segment very jealous.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's handy to have, but and their beer prices, when you can get them fresh, their beer prices are good. This one, this is an IPA with tropical fruit flavors, tangerine and orange flavors, but it comes in at just 5% and tastes like it probably should be about 8.
I hear you. Hey, listen, enjoy the care package from Lakewood. I'm looking forward to getting those reviews starting next week. And in the meantime, we'll get a chance to chat with you again right back here next Wednesday, Jay.
All right. Sounds great, Steve. Thanks so much.